then it's like an evergreen. You use that sound effect every time. Or we might have farm logic. We're like, well, it's time for some farm logic. You know? Or we might say, hey, Marshall, I've got a great story. This story, it's huge. So we're going to the Justin Bieber concert. And I had the foresight to go ahead and get us tickets on row 5. And this lady, she walks up and she spills my beer. And she says, I'm so sorry, you can have mine. But my beer was actually empty, but she wouldn't stop giving it to me. So I got a free beer.
Well, I mean...
That was a true story. So that really happened. And then action steps. Drivers, hey, it's time for some action steps. What action are you going to take? Or one more. Thrivers, hey, we're going to have an incredible notable quotable from you coming up for you next. And let me tell you what, it is not sponsored by Kanye West.
I am the number one most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. Walt Disney, Nike, Google.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
There's product here. And this is where you end up, right here. If you can communicate this product, you can make money off the product.
I can't believe we drove around.
That right there, those are evergreens. Those are segments you play over and over and over. Boom.
So they're different parts of the specific podcast episode, and it actually leads into the content of what you're talking about.
Think about Dave Letterman's top 10 list. Think about SportsCenter plays of the week. Think about Shaqtin' a Fool on TNT, the sports show, with the NBA. Where Shaq basically makes fun of players who did crazy things this week.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so evergreens are going to lead into the content. The content is basically the meat of what you're talking about.
Oh, what is that? Meat? What are you talking about?
Okay, then it's going to lead into a hook into one of your other platforms. So just like we talked about before.
Are you refusing to answer the question? What is the meat?
The meat, the content, the description of whatever the topic is about.
Okay. I think, a lot of times we have a lot of thrivers who are eating raw.
I see.
They're vegan.
Gotcha.
And then you're out there throwing out your heavily offensive meat references.
I gotcha.
So calm down there, Lady Gaga. Take off the meat dress for a minute. All right? And just let's focus on everybody else.
There we go.
Quit pushing it on me.
Okay.
I'm tired of it. I'm tired.
Okay. No meat.
I'm very tired. I'm tired of the whole. I'm about ready to do like the Candace thing from The View where she just walks off.
There it is.
I'm this close.
Okay.
All right.
No more meat.
No more meat.
Meat for the podcast.
We're moving on. You obviously can't be coached.
Okay, so evergreen number 1, you're going to start with an evergreen, move into the content or basically the topic of whatever the episode is about.
Yep.
And then you're going to hook into another one of the platforms. Now, we talked about the hook earlier being the synopsis or the summary of what that episode's going to be about. But at some point, you're going to want to talk about a site or a specific store location or another way for them to interact with your business and your platforms. So whether that's a book, whether that's a website, whether that is a store location, or where they can buy a resource online.
You have to imagine that people are not listening to your podcast unless it's an entertainment only show for the purposes of just listening to vagaries. They want to actually solve their problem. They want to get the answer. If they're listening to your podcast about philosophy, perhaps they would like to buy your book on philosophy. If they're listening to your podcast about Calvinism, perhaps they want to buy a book about Calvinism. If they're watching a podcast about fitness, or listening to a podcast about fitness, perhaps they want to buy your book about fitness or enroll in your boot camp or whatever it is.
Okay. And so you're going to repeat that evergreen content and hook about 2, 3, 4 times throughout the duration of the podcast.
Okay.
And then in the middle, about halfway through the specific podcast episode, you're going to have the opportunity to cut to a break. So a lot of podcasts, they'll have about the 10-minute mark or the 15-minute mark. They'll say, okay, we're going to take a quick break, but let's hear from the sponsors of this specific episode.
Are you ready to ship your pants? Because if shipping your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis. Anyway, buy your pants today from Worldwide Pants. You can get your pants $19.99, the absolute best American-made pants on the planet. I love them. You're going to love them. When you buy a pair of pants, we give a pair of pants. Ship your pants.
There you go. So that is what a lot of podcast producers, they'll call the mid-roll.
Mid-roll.
Okay? The mid-roll.
Mid-roll.
Okay. And then you'll have an opportunity to do 2 or 3 evergreens after that mid-roll there before you have the outro, which is something just like the intro that you can professionally produce in a Adobe Audition like we talked about, or you can get Thrive15.com. You come out to a workshop, we'll produce it for you. Or you can just wrap up and close the podcast.
Absolutely. That's how you do it. And so you want to make sure you end with a little bit of an audio that takes people out, lets them know, hey, we're done. We're peacing out. We're done.
We're done.
ESPN, da-da-da, da-da-da, done. That's
so that is the format, okay?
Yep.
Again, if you want the downloadable for this format so that you can just keep it in front of you while you're recording the podcast episodes, you can download it. Just click on the link that is associated with this series, or you can email us at info@thrive15.com.